In the 80s and 90s, arcades were made for one purpose: to squeeze as many out of you as possible. To achieve that, they utilized dirty tactics and hardcore difficulty. But that created a generation of people that loved brutal, hardcore games that test their skills and limits. Now, if you're one of those, then in today's video, I present to you 15 brutal arcade beat-em-ups that will destroy you in the best way possible. Guardians, Denjin Makai 2, 1995. Released in 1995 as the genre was beginning to fade, Guardians, developed by Winkysoft and published by Banpresto, is a real tale of excess. It's a sequel to Denjin Makai, taking the already wild cast of cyborgs and mutants from that game and injecting it even more chaos. And by that I mean its sheer move list. Each of the 8 playable characters has a massive repertoire of unique special moves, including dedicated projectiles and screen-clearing supers. Unlike its predecessor, you can now cancel moves into one another, allowing for juggling combos that feel like they're from a platinum game. The character designs are among the most bizarre in the genre. Returning favorites like the cyborg Belva have been upgraded, but the standout is Zelda. No, not the Princess of Hyrule, but more a cyborg monkey wolf thing from the first game, who has evolved into an angelic winged warrior. Between a ninja with magical spells, a mutant dinosaur, and a hero with a laser sword, the game offers a diversity of playable characters that I've never seen anywhere else. Final Fight 1989. If there's a single game responsible for the quarter-muncher reputation of the 90s, it's Capcom's Final Fight. Originally intended as a sequel to the original Street Fighter, it transformed into its own franchise entirely. Other than Double Dragon, this game set the template for the entire genre. 3 heroes, Cody, Guy, and Hager, taking on the Mad Gear Gang to rescue the mayor's daughter across the mean streets of Metro City. Final Fight is infamous for its steep difficulty spikes, particularly its bosses, as each boss was designed to be a wall that required perfect crowd control and precise positioning to beat. It introduced the classic desperation move, a spinning attack to clear space at the cost of your own health, forcing you to weigh your survival against your offensive momentum. The characters were massive, and the environments were filled with breakable objects and hidden weapons. Whether you were using a lead pipe to keep a mob at bay or timing Hager's iconic pile driver, every frame of animation was designed to feel heavy and high stakes. Violent Storm 1993. Violent Storm was Konami's version of Final Fight. It serves as the third entry in a spiritual trilogy following Crime Fighters and Vendetta, where you play as Wade, Boris, or Kyle, battling through the Geld Gang to rescue your friend Sheena. The most immediate innovation is the soundtrack. Violent Storm features a high-energy, pop-rock OST complete with full lyrics that dynamically kick in during boss fights. A technical rarity for 1993 arcade hardware. The visuals match the energy of the audio with fluidly animated sprites and a combat system that's crunchy and weighty. It also introduced character-specific command moves, such as Kyle's rapid-fire kicks, that allowed for higher skill juggling. The game's brutal difficulty stems from its unpredictable enemy types, as you aren't fighting street thugs, but rather eclectic and bizarre enemies, such as flame-throwing chefs, industrial robots, and bosses like Red Freddy, who uses a massive iron ball to outdo your reach. It requires a mastery of the dash mechanic to avoid being cornered, as the game can and will flood the screen with projectiles and heavy hitters. Night Slasher 1993. Data East's Night Slashers is a standout on this list for its gore and horror aesthetic. Battling through hordes of zombies, vampires, and eldritch horrors, you play as one of 3 monster hunters: Jake, Christopher, or Huanghua. That's his name. I'm not being racist, that's how they literally did things in the 90s. The game is known for its over-the-top violence, where finishing moves result in enemies literally exploding or being buried alive. The game features a unique elemental combat system where each character has specific magical abilities that can be charged and released for massive area of effect damage. Christopher uses holy water, and Crosses or Hong Huan utilizes mystical talismans. This adds a layer of strategic resource management as you must decide when to spend your health or magic bar to cast powerful abilities. Night Slashers uses a dark, grimy palette and digitized sound effects to create a very gothic Halloween atmosphere. I love the Halloween aesthetic, especially with these bosses, including a mad scientist who fights inside a mecha undead construct and a literal Frankenstein's monster. Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder, 1992. While the original Golden Axe is a classic, its arcade-exclusive sequel, The Revenge of Death Adder, is much more complex. Running on Sega's System 32 hardware, it utilized advanced sprite scaling to create one of the biggest playing fields in the genre. It's not just building upon the previous game, but it completely reimagines how beat-em-ups can be presented on the screen. The game pushed the boundaries of cooperative play as well by allowing up to 4 players simultaneously. You can choose between multiple creative character archetypes, including a giant who carries a dwarf on his back, and the Centauride. More importantly, it implemented team magic and branching paths, requiring players to coordinate their attacks for maximum damage and to make decisions together to survive increasingly difficult enemy waves. The iconic Beelies, the rideable creatures, have returned with more variety, from fire-breathing lizards to gigantic praying mantises. These mounts are essential for clearing large numbers of enemies and surviving enemy onslaughts. Metamorphic Force, 1993. Metamorphic Force is Konami's version of Altered Beast, but with the speed and complexity of Violent Storm. You play as one of 4 guardians, Ban, Claude, Max, or Minotaurus, who can transform into powerful anthropomorphic beasts such as a golden bear, werewolf, panther, or minotaur, respectively. The game's brutal difficulty is balanced by the power trip that is your beast form. In this state, your reach, damage, and speed increase massively, allowing you to tear through the hordes of enemies in your way. And I do mean hordes, as the game is known for its crowd flooding, constantly flanking you with armored statues and elemental monsters that require quick reflexes and the use of the game's space, making desperation attacks. The game utilizes impressive sprite scaling and rotation effects that can give bosses a sort of 3D-like or extremely deadly. It's a fast-paced, hi-fi brawler that has a perfect balance of underpowered and overpowered. The Combat Tribes, 1990. Developed by Technos Japan, the creators of the one and only Double Dragon, the Combat Tribes stripped away the platforming and weapon gathering of its predecessors to focus on pure street brawling. You play as Berserker, Bulova, or Blitz, 3 massive cyborg brawlers clearing the gangs of futuristic New York. The characters, animations, and enemies are all big and heavy, and they move and clash with that weight too. Technos introduced something unique with this game, a complex downed enemy system, unlike other games of this genre, and really unlike any other game of this time. Enemies don't disappear after you've defeated them. Instead, their bodies will be lying on the floor, where you can grab them by their ankles to swing them into crowds or brutally slam their heads into the pavement. This focus on grappling and environmental interaction was revolutionary for 1990, requiring players to manage the enemies, both alive and dead, with its distinct comic book art style and digitized grunts of pain. It remains one of the best brutally violent games in the Technos library.
Is that your bed? Is that your bed?
Dungeons and Dragons: Shadow over Mystara, 1996. Capcom's Shadow over Mystara isn't just a regular old beat-em-up. It's a full-scale action RPG disguised as a beat-em-up. Building on Tower of Doom, the sequel added more classes, including the Thief and Magic User, and much more depth. The game combines visceral brawling with inventory management, spellcasting, and branching paths that dramatically change the game's outcome. The complexity here is unrivaled in this genre. Each character has a large moveset, including slides, air attacks, and desperation moves. The Magic User and Cleric introduced a selection-based spell system that pauses the action, allowing for tactical spellcasts and buffs. Furthermore, the game features a persistent loot and equipment system which you won't find popularized until the roguelike craze of the late 2010s. Designed for up to 4 players, success requires actual teamwork, and not just the brawl together of other games. The fighter holds the front line while the elves provide magical support and the thief targets weak points. With multiple endings and hidden secrets, it's a brawler that rewards deep knowledge and player synergy. Dungeons and Dragons Tower of Doom 1994. If Mystara was too much for you, or rather you didn't have 3 other friends to play with, then consider Tower of Doom. This was the game that fundamentally changed the beat-em-up genre and proved that you didn't have to stick to the Double Dragon formula. I don't know how they managed to merge Dungeons and Dragons with Final Fight, but they did it. You choose from 4 classic archetypes: fighter, cleric, elf, or dwarf, and embark on a classic D&D adventure. Tower of Doom forced players to think beyond just punching. With the inventory system, you had throwables and consumables such as hammers, burning oil, and throwing daggers. You can swap between end use, and these were vital because the game expects more strategic thinking rather than just pure button mashing. Bosses like the Manticore or the Displaced Beast weren't damage sponges. They had specific patterns that required you to use your limited magical spells and inventory items effectively in order to survive. Battle Circuit 1997. As the arcade brawler era reached its climax, Capcom released Battle Circuit, a sci-fi epic that is as weird as it is difficult. You play as one of 5 intergalactic bounty hunters, including a cybernetic pink ostrich and a man living with plant hair on a mission to stop the Delete Gang. The game introduced a persistent upgrade system where between levels you spend coins collected from defeated enemies to purchase new moves, health extensions, and battle downloads. These downloads are character-specific buffs like increased attack power or defensive shields that you can activate during combat. This added a layer of actual strategy to the brawling, as you had to decide whether or not to save for a powerful screen clearer super for an upcoming difficult challenge, or invest in basic combo extensions to survive the current encounter, as the game's brutal late-stage difficulty spikes can be a killer. Designed for 4 players, co-op Battle Circuit features a synchro burst mechanic where players can coordinate their buffs for a massive team-wide power-up. This is essential for surviving this extremely difficult game. Armored Warriors 1994. Capcom's Armored Warriors, also known as Power Gear in Japan, took the standard beat-em-up formula and infused it with freaking Gundam. Instead of normal-ass street thugs, you pilot massive mechs called variable armors against an enemy of cyborgs and tanks. It's a technical showpiece for the CPS2 hardware, featuring some of the most detailed sprite work and fluid animation of its era. You can't have a mech game without some sort of part customizing mechanic. When you destroy certain enemy mechs, they drop parts like laser blades, Vulcan cannons, or tank threads. You can pick these up on the fly to physically transform your mech, changing your attack range, speed, and special moves. This creates a dynamic combat loop where you are constantly field stripping your enemies to upgrade your own arsenal, a level of customization that is still unmatched in this genre. Designed for 3-player co-op, the game features a team-up mechanic where players can combine their mechs into a single screen-filling super robot for limited-time devastation. I can't believe a beat-em-up is one of the best mech games that I've ever played. Aliens vs. Predator 1994. Widely considered as one of Capcom's best arcade games alongside Street Fighter, Alien vs. Predator is a brutal, high-fidelity brawler that will make any 90s boy go, hell yeah. You choose from a roster of 2 cybernetically enhanced humans, including Dutch Schaefer, and 2 predators, each with vastly different playstyles, to fight back a xenomorph infestation. It's a technical powerhouse, filling the screen with dozens of fast-moving aliens without any slowdown at all. Unlike most brawlers where projectiles are rare pickups, AVP gives every character a dedicated long-range weapon with its own ammunition or overheat gauge. This turns the combat into a hybrid of melee combos and tactical shooting. You have to mix the shooting and melee together to keep the crowd control, juggling xenomorphs in the air and creating a frantic high-skill rhythm. The difficulty stems from the sheer speed and variety of the enemies. From the acid-spitting stalker to the massive queen, the AI is designed to flank you and attack you from off-screen. You'll need to stay mobile, shoot, and punch all at the same time. Vendetta, Crime Fighters 2, 1991. I've talked about Violent Storm on this list, and we're only now getting to its spiritual prequel. Vendetta is much darker and nastier than Violent Storm. It's fast, it's loud, and it's mean to the player. You play as one of the 4 members of the Cobra Gang on a mission to rescue a kidnapped friend from the rival Dead End Gang. Vendetta was one of the first brawlers to lean into the dirtier parts of street brawling. You don't just wait for your enemies to get back up after you've knocked them down. You're encouraged to kick them while they are on the floor or pick them up for a back-breaking slam. The environments are equally lethal, packed with interactive hazards like barrels, crates, and you can even toss enemies into the background elements. The gameplay is also brutally difficult as the Dead End Gang doesn't wait for their turn to attack. They will surround you, grab you from behind, and utilize a variety of weapons from chainsaws to sledgehammers. So good luck trying to survive these bloody streets. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, 1993. Based on Mark Schultz's Cenozoic Tales, this Capcom classic is often cited as one of the most balanced and satisfying brawlers ever made. It's a post-apocalyptic 26th century where dinosaurs have returned to roam the earth, and you lead a team of 4 all-American teens to stop the black marketers from exploiting the prehistoric beasts. While most beat-em-ups treat weapons as secondary, they are core to this game. The levels are littered with Uzis, shotguns, sticks of dynamite, etc. That vastly changes the flow of combat. You aren't just worried about positioning in combos, but also managing ammo and blast radii. This is crucial as the game frequently pits you against poachers who use the same high-tiered weaponry against you, making the game more than just your typical brawler. Then there are the dinosaurs themselves, large herbivores and predators roaming the stages as neutral parties, and if you or an enemy hits them, they'll start attacking. Mastering how to bait enemies into dinosaur attacks while avoiding being stomped yourself is the key to surviving game's later, more punishing stages. Ninja Baseball Batman 1993. Ending our list is Irem's Ninja Baseball Batman, a game so absurd, well, you gotta see to believe it. I mean, you're looking at it right now, right? Can you make sense of anything going on? That's the entire experience of this game. Despite its bizarre premise of 4 baseball-themed ninjas recovering stolen artifacts from the Baseball Hall of Fame, it's a solid and surprisingly deep brawler. Each of the 4 ninjas, Jose, Rhino, Roger, and Straw, has a moveset that rivals a modern fighting game. You have command grabs, dash attacks, and air juggling capabilities that allow for long combo chains and sweeping attacks. The game even features bomb attacks that clear the screen but leave you temporarily vulnerable as a form of a desperation move. The difficulty comes from the game's relentless imaginative enemy design. You'll face sentient baseballs, giant mechanical catchers, mitts, and bosses like a living airplane or a massive haunted slot machine encounters that are filled with multi-hit projectiles and area of effect attacks that require constant movement. These 15 titles were absolute gatekeepers in the arcades, demanding skill, patience, and a pocket full of change. From the gritty streets to the wacky Baseball Hall of Fame, these games are the peak of 2D beat-em-up design and, more importantly, 90s brutal difficulty.